Let's learn something. So today we're going to be talking about the book of Isaiah. The overall theme in Isaiah can be summarized in chapter 12, verse 2, when it says, "Behold, God is my salvation. I will trust and not be afraid." So this verse kind of echoes what Isaiah's name means, which is salvation from Yahweh. So when you first read the book of Isaiah, you may be wondering, well, the whole entire first 39 chapters is talking about judgment, but the overall theme is actually salvation, and you'll see why. Because a lot of people ask, how can those two things exist, judgment and salvation? But it's the presence of judgment that indicates that we need salvation, because we can't have salvation unless we need it. So the first little half of Isaiah talks about the judgment. The later half talks about the salvation and why we need the salvation from the judgment. It's kind of confusing, but not really at the same time. I encourage you to read it and read it yourself. So the bulk of the early chapters in Isaiah are kind of detailing judgments against the people who have turned their backs on the Lord, showing us that those who persist in rebellion will receive the judgment. You rebel against God, you will receive a rebellious judgment also. But on the other hand, we see God's faithfulness to His promise. His promise was ultimately salvation if you turn your heart over to the Lord. You will see that God still preserves the faithful believers, those who will continue on in the glorious, renewed world that He ultimately speaks about in the end times. So that's kind of a rough summary of the book of Isaiah. For our animal spotlight today, we're going to be talking about one of the biggest nuisance of the state, the black bear. So the black bear are typically 4 to 5 feet in total length. Males can weigh up to 400 pounds. Females on average are around 200. They're very uncommon. They say about 4,000 exist today, but I think that number is way higher than that. They are found in just about everywhere within the state. They typically have between 1 and 3 cubs, and are usually born in January or February. Young will stay with the female for about a year. They eat anything from acorns and nuts to actually some small animals as well. The home range is quite large. Males can have a home range of up to 120 square miles, but females are only about 10 to 20. Black bears rely more on their smell and hearing than their eyesight. Black bears have been known to live up to 30 years. On our financial portion today, I'm just going to be giving 8 tips for young investors, old investors, anybody that wants financial advice. Here's 8 tips to follow. Practice self-control. Pay with cash, not credit. Beware of bad advice. Educate yourself. Learn to budget. Know where your money goes. Pay yourself first. Start an emergency fund. Start saving for retirement now. Get a grip on taxes. Definitely understand all your different tax brackets and all that kind of stuff, and not only all the ways you can get around some taxes. You'll never be able to completely avoid tax, but there's certainly some ways you can lower your tax that you're paying in. Guard your health. This is talking about get health insurance, all this kind of stuff, and it says protect your wealth. This is also insurance. These are some 8 financial tips. They're mainly for young adults, especially like the saving for retirement, but it's never too late to start. So even if you're up in age, it's still good to be saving that money and following these 8 rules as best as you can. On today's History Spotlight, we're going to be talking about a very influential character, Benjamin Franklin. So throughout the early years of the English colonies, most Europeans did not take Americans seriously. It actually was Benjamin Franklin who would help the English, or the Europeans, begin to notice America. Benjamin Franklin actually ran away to Philadelphia when he was only 17 years old. Over the next 25 years of his life, he made a fortune out of only the 3 pennies he had carried with him to the city. We know he invented many different things, from wood-burning stove to the bifocal reading glasses, but of course his most famous work was electricity. And Benjamin Franklin actually finding electricity gave him an honorary degree from Harvard and Yale, as well as fame overseas. People liked his insights and his dry wit. He also was able to retire at the age of 42, which I think is an inspiration to all young people today. But nonetheless, that's a little bit about Benjamin Franklin. And our quote today is, "Learn as if you will live forever. Live like you will die tomorrow." That's this episode. Hope you learned something.